Welcome to the Warband, a World of Warcraft podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Swaglock, and with me today, as always, our co-host, Chicken. Dude, Chicken, how are you doing?
Oh, not too bad, living the dream. Living the dream.
Nice, and what dream is that?
The dream where I can sit at home and play World of Warcraft for an extra day because it's Memorial Day weekend, baby. Woo!
That is true. That is true. It is Memorial Day weekend, which is kind of nice. I'll actually be doing more cleaning. I'm just I've just been sorting through everything. Obviously, podcast knows I'm getting married soon, so I'm just sorting through all my junk and just getting rid of everything. So tomorrow we're actually moving furniture around to start kind of getting prepped for that. But man, it's there's a lot to go through today, a lot to talk about, a lot happening. We even have a Patreon now that we've launched, so we'll discuss that later in the podcast for anyone who is maybe interested in helping support the content we create and allow us to do more stuff. We'll talk about that later. But right now, there's lots going on in World of Warcraft. And so, Chicken, dude, this week, man, what have you been up to in WoW?
Oof, that's a loaded question because I really haven't been up to that much. To be honest, I don't think I've played WoW outside of a little bit. I speed ran 4 keys on Saturday afternoon, and I helped our friend Yodabot do 1 key on Tuesday, and I'm pretty sure that's all I played. I've not played that much WoW.
Dude, some weeks are like that, man. Some weeks are like that. And I feel like we've said that before in the podcast. Sometimes you just have those weeks where you're able to just run it, right? I've been having weeks where I'm having full vaults, and then the next week I have 1 slot. And it's kind of back and forth. It's hard to predict right now.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know if I'm just hitting the wall a little sooner. I don't know. I was thinking about this earlier. It's I'm in that area right now. I'm okay, I got all my 10s, easy peasy.
Mm-hmm.
I got KSH, KSM, obviously. I'm in that zone where it's okay, what do I do? Do I kind of stick around with WoW, kind of move on to a different game? Maybe I could stick with WoW, maybe play some other characters, but that typically doesn't last very long for me.
Dude, you're stuck with it, man. You got a WoW podcast, bro. You gotta. It's the grind. It's the grind, dude.
WoW to me is almost more of a lifestyle, though, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I always what was that?
You live the WoW.
I've always liked WoW more recently, in the past couple years, or the past couple year that we started this.
Yeah,
as just kind of almost a media outlet, is wonder what WoW's doing this week. More oh, hey, we're doing X, Y, and Z this week. There's a new update. And it's it's kind of just cool to have a game that you're kind of invested in, if that makes sense.
It is nice. It is nice having those constant changes.
Yeah, and just kind of having something to put your time into. And let's be honest, life is not always the funnest. And when you're old and you don't have much to do, it's kind of fun to have a game that you can kind of talk about and enjoy and kind of do life with, if you will.
Yeah, it's
air
different.
Quotes, life with.
Do life, right? It's interesting because, right, every other game, if I want to play another game, Minecraft or a shooter or whatever, right, I log in, I sign up for some rounds, right, just queue up, go in, play a bit, and I'm done. But WoW is interesting, right? I log in, and it's genuinely just this world. I log in, I see my friends online, we're chatting, we're making jokes, maybe we're not even doing the same content, maybe we're doing other stuff. There are times where we have things scheduled, like events on right? It's just today, right? We had our Mythic Keys event as a guild, and so I'm on at 6, jumping into my group that I'm running with for the day, or slamming out keys, pushing hard. I wasn't personally doing much pushing. I made a mistake. I signed up. So one of the rules for our Mythic Keys event that we have as a guild on Sundays is that you have to have at least timed a key in the key range that you're signing up for, right? So players sign up for different ranges, and then we sort their groups before Sunday, right? So usually Friday or Saturday, I'll post the roster for the week of like who's playing on what teams, and then they go run their keys. Once they're in their teams, they can do whatever they want. But I try to sort it. I try to sort it so at least that way they have a good starting ground. The rule being though that they have to start, or I mean they can only sign up if they've timed a key in that range. So I signed up for like the 5 to 7 range, and I was trying to get my paladin to have a timed 5 before today started. And so I ran a quick key before the event. Well, it was supposed to be a quick key before the event. And then halfway through, one of our DPS just leaves.
Oh, no.
And so like, we completed it. We still finished it with just 2 DPS, but we were like 3 minutes over time or something. Not even 3 minutes. I think maybe like 2 minutes over time. Again, just missing a whole third of our damage output for the run.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang it, I can't bring this character now. Like, I'm the one who runs this event. I can't break my own rules that I'm setting for everybody else. So I just brought my DK and tanked on my DK instead, which I'm sure they were more thankful for. They were probably like, sweet, Swag's on DK. This makes everything go a little bit faster. However, I don't prosper as much off running 5s to 7s on my DK that I'm like running like 12s on right now. So but again, ultimately, I love our guild and I love the people in it, and so I still had fun. I had fun chatting. I had fun helping them out. It was a good time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, it's always WoW is just kind of one of those games. There's always something. So
always something.
Yeah,
and even if like you're bored. Now, my advice is if you're like bored in WoW, like there's no shame in just playing a different game. Like, there's no shame to be like, you know what, I'm going to play something else, and then come back to WoW later, right? Like, sometimes it makes it more fun when you take your little breaks. However, there's also no shame in just being like, you know what, I'm not enjoying keys right now. Maybe I'll go find some mounts that I really want and just work to unlock them. Maybe I'll go find some transmogs, just work to unlock it. You don't always have to grind out the rating, right? Like, you don't, and it goes for everybody, right? Like, maybe you are a mountain farmer. And like right now, you are just like, man, I can't do any more mountain farming. I am absolutely exhausted just running these over and over and over again. Or maybe with delves. Maybe in delves, you're just like, I don't know. Well, you know what? Maybe then at that point, dip your toes into some M+ or something. Try it out. Just doing different things. Just trying something different for a little bit, even if it's not your favorite. I've had seasons, not this season, but I've had seasons where when things get a little dull, I'll even do like a little bit of arenas. Or RPGs, and it might only be for like a week. I might only do it for like a week, but it's just 1 week where like I'm doing something different or making alts. That's my normal thing. My normal thing is just making alts, because then it's like I'm still doing the content I love, right? Like M+ and stuff, but I'm doing it in a way that feels uniquely different, and I have to like relearn how to do the thing I already knew how to do.
Yeah,
which is fun.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I might dip into some good old PvP maybe here in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, you definitely do more than I do, I think.
Yeah, I might do that because, like I said, I'm kind of in this like weird state of like, do I push for KSL? Do I not? And it's really like, I could, but it's do I want to grind for it? And I just don't think I do. Especially with the season of life I'm about to enter, it's like I have a solid like 3 weeks to make like a hard push on it. Yep. And if I don't get anywhere close in the next 3 weeks, I'm not going to get it.
Yeah, right. Once the baby's here, that's toast. Like, that's so far out of your mind. You don't want to be worried about that.
Yeah, like I probably won't touch WoW for like at least like probably like 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh man, we'll have to dude, we're gonna have a very interesting, just a heads up for our listeners. Chicken and I are working on some plans, so we're gonna make it cool. We're gonna make it very unique. But there might be a couple weeks here coming up in June, even leading into July a little bit, where the podcast will continue. We're still going to be doing podcast stuff, but some of the episodes might be pre-recorded. Some of the content might be less about current events in WoW and maybe more general discussions about specific things in WoW that are maybe more long-term. Just because I'm going to be away on my honeymoon, and so I'm going to try and avoid doing podcast stuff while I'm doing that, Chicken's having a baby shortly, like hopefully a couple days after the wedding. We'll see what happens. But so all of that
or
to say,
a week
though,
before the wedding.
that's true too. So all of that to say, just know content in June might look a little bit different. We're gonna see what we have to do, but the podcast isn't gonna stop. So we're gonna keep going. We might just have to get a little creative. Maybe we'll bring in some past guests that you guys have enjoyed on the podcast before. Do some special episodes with them where we can maybe do deep dives into specific WoW content and conversations. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, they'll definitely. Yeah, we'll find stuff to talk about. If not, I can whip out some good old WoW trivia and see if I can stump Swaggy.
Now we're going into lore. We're gonna do a lore podcast where I read every book, every World of Warcraft book to Chicken.
No, stop. That would be rough. Imagine.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine if you actually did that. There was probably a fair amount of those books.
There are some good books out there. There's a new one that was just announced, by the way.
Oh yeah. I saw that.
It's supposed to, I think, kind of lead into Midnight a little bit. That should come out in November. So if you are definitely curious for more lore, if you want to know more about like what's going to be happening, I believe. Again, I don't have it in our notes, and I don't have the article up ahead of me, so I could say incorrect information, but from what I remember, it is written by Christy Golden. She's done a few books in the past. I have a couple books from her. I know she did the Sylvanas book. I believe she did the Lich King, or the Arthas book. She did the recent one for Dragonflight as well. I can't remember what it's called, but I'm literally looking across the room at it on my bookshelf. I just can't remember the name of it.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is Christy Golden.
Okay, it's Christy Golden. Yeah, she does a phenomenal job. Wonderful author, writes some fantastic stuff. So if you are into lore a little bit like I am, definitely check it out. I gotta be careful though how often I make jokes about doing a lore podcast with Chicken, because I think people will eventually hold us to it.
No, stop. We can't do it.
That's Chicken's greatest fear. That's his greatest fear. That was the one thing I had to promise him when we made the podcast. I kept trying to sneak lore stuff into the podcast. Like if you listen to episode 1, I think there's like a lore segment at the end of it or something. And very quickly,
I think there was too.
Very quickly, Chicken was like, "No, don't do this to me, Swag.
We're not gonna do this, right?
So
we're not gonna do this, right?
Yo, one day, who knows, man? We gotta fill a couple weeks while we're gone. Who knows, man? Who knows?
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll bring on some lore nerds for the conversation.
The problem is, it's not that I don't have an interest in the WoW lore. It's just I feel like there's just too much of it.
That's what makes it fun. I get to catch you up.
Yeah, but like even that, I feel like there's just too much to catch up on, man. Too much.
Nah.
Like imagine.
Okay.
Trying to catch me up on all the lore in World of Warcraft. It would take weeks, months.
Yes. So in the beginning, you have the light and the void, right? And essentially, they are two forces. Now, it's hard to tell if the forces of the light and the void clashing is what creates all other not elemental, but all the other force planes that we know of, such as the Shadowlands, such as Emerald Dream, such as elemental planes, right? All that. It's hard to tell if that led into those creations, or those always just kind of existed on their own, or if they were ordered by the first ones. We don't totally know. But what we do know is from the beginning of time, the light and the void have definitely been clashing, and they definitely influenced the creation of the Fel, right? Because I believe the Fel is a result of the light and void clashing for sure. And out of those forces, right, you also have the force of order, right? So similar to like how Shadowlands is the land of death, you also have this like this realm of order, and from that come the Titans. The Titans are these giant, like colossal planet-sized beings who travel the universe, searching for more Titans and bringing order to planets, right? So their leader, a guy named Amanthul, he actually like leads them as they organize and order planet. So they'll go to a planet and be like, this planet is disorderly, and they'll organize it, order it, create structure to that planet. Maybe the way that the animals or the creatures that live on it, the people, interact with each other. Eventually, though, one day, one of them, a Titan named Sargeras, he goes bonkers wild, right? Because he's been traveling across the universe fighting the Fel and the Burning Legion and locking them away, I believe, on either a planet or the Twisting Nether. I think he locked them in Twisting Nether. It's been a minute, though, since I looked into that. He's locking them all away until one day he comes across a planet that is absolutely consumed by the Void, and he gets so scared. He gets so scared of this planet consumed by the Void that he actually turns to the Fel, which he's been fighting this whole time, and uses the Fel to empower him to destroy this planet, and then basically goes on a rampage trying to just destroy everything, because he believes if he can destroy everything, then at least the Void can't have it at that point. It's kind of a stupid ideal. Anyways, he unleashes all those demons that he had locked up. Now he has control of the Burning Legion. They're following him. I'm gonna stop there. I'm not actually doing this to you, Chicken. Don't worry.
That was, I wasn't even paying attention for most of that. I'm not gonna lie.
Nah, 100% Chicken zoned out. Guarantee it. Guaranteed. He's like, well,
like,
Swag's gonna fill that timer, I guess.
Oh my gosh. Okay. First of all, we got plenty of other stuff we could say to fill.
Oh, dude, we got so much to talk about today, actually.
Anyways, so what did you talk about what you were doing in a while this week? Other than
I mean, we had the keys event. I haven't been doing a ton. We did some raiding this week. Again, this week is a little bit more of a busy one. I had a wedding I was at for a friend this weekend. However, I did get some raiding in with the guild. We were kind of reprogging heroic, in the sense that most players were just bringing their alts to do heroic, and we had a bunch of new people in doing heroic as well, which, by the way, I want to say like a third. I want to say like a third of the group running. We had like maybe 20 people, maybe 25. I'm trying to remember our numbers. But anyways, about a third of our group was podcast listeners, which is really awesome. It was wonderful to have. Yeah, cool. I love watching them join in and raid with us and do stuff. So that was a lot of fun. That was a good time. We got stuck on Muggsy. We couldn't get past Muggsy. It was a little frustrating because we got up to Muggsy on night 1. But then Muggsy was just our hard wall. I think we just had, again, it was a lot of people on alts. Also, a lot of people, I think we even had people coming who maybe hadn't done heroic raid at all, and were jumping in first on Muggsy. And so, it was whatever. Like, we're just there we're just chilling. Like, at this point, we've already completed the raid, so let's just have fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sense in, like, this is just to kind of go and have fun, right?
Yep.
No sense in trying to prog or do anything like that. I mean, we're just trying to have a good old time and catch up, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So, yeah, one of these days I'm going to raid with you. I saw that you released the schedule to do some other things, because I was like, oh, I really want to go to the achievement run for the raid, because the mount is actually pretty legit this time. So I was like, I really need to be available for that. And then I was like, oh, rip, that date is gonna kind of be sus, but we'll see what we can do.
We'll see what we can do.
I'll just bring like a laptop to the hospital and just raid from the hospital.
That's perfect. I will be, I believe, out of town that week, so we'll see.
Oh, really?
Wait, what was the day again?
That was a week right before your wedding. So
the week before the wedding. Oh, the week before the wedding. What are we doing that week? I thought you were talking about the different. We have a bunch of fun like guild raid nights planned. So
yes,
I might have been looking at the wrong one.
One thing I love about looking at, like the historical, like, kind of just like fun, kind of like goof off raid that we typically do every expansion.
We have the achievement raids though that week before. I do want to go to those because the mount is sick.
Dude, the mount is super cool.
Yeah, it's the Styx Bunk Junker mount, I believe.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
The mounts this raid are like top tier. They're so good.
Yeah, right. I think theming helps a lot, right? So like theming helps a ton in the sense of there's so many cool goblin like mounts out there potentially.
Oh yeah.
And so they had awesome stuff to choose from. With that said, I do feel like some past seasons they've also had good options and they just didn't take them maybe it's hard to make mounts, and so they just use what kind of pre-exists with skeletons. But
Yeah.
I thought last season, right? Last season was kind of the KSM mount was nice last season. It was a good KSM mount, but the raid mounts were kind of lame, especially the achievement one.
Yeah.
Achievement was very lame.
Excuse me. Yeah, the achievement mount for raid last season was kind of bad. I didn't even do it. I was like, I'm not even gonna mess with this.
Dude, you know what they should have had? You know what they should have had last season for the achievement mount? And I get it. Mounts are supposed to be things you ride on, right? I totally get that.
Yeah.
But what if it was a mount? What if, like, instead of a mount, you got, like, a potion? I mean, it worked as a mount, right? Like, it went into your mount inventory and everything. But it just transformed you into a giant bug. Like, just a giant bug with wings.
Oh, that would have been kind of cool.
That'd be cool, right? Like, it would feel on theme, right? Like, it was a raid where a lot of, obviously, Slayer people, but also on top of that, right, the idea of, like, they were already altering their bodies. They were already doing things that were transforming them. So that would fit in. That would fit, like, thematically, that would fit in. But I digress. Anyways, it's been a fun season, though. I've been enjoying raiding right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it's been a fun season. It's been an okay season.
Yeah, I think it also.
I just think they push the limits on a lot of things, and I think it's kind of suffering from that. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, what do you mean?
I think the shift to personally, and this is my opinion, and this might be like a bold take, a really hot take, but I think Keystone Legend was bad for the game. I think it was.
Really? Why's that?
I really do. Yeah, I just think it was. I think it diminished the value of Keystone Master and Keystone Hero a little bit. I feel like the value of those just aren't what they used to be now that Keystone Legend is a thing.
Yeah.
And I just think, personally, the incentive to do it is there if you like the mount. I don't really love the mount. It's a cool mount, but it's not a mount that I would use like regularly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the thing that upsets me the most is the jump from Keystone Master to Keystone Hero doesn't seem that bad, but the jump from Keystone Hero to Keystone Legend, I feel like, is a lot worse.
It is. It's
and maybe I don't know if you disagree with that, but it kind of seems like the gimmick of Keystone Master isn't even really a thing anymore. I think Keystone Master is almost a given if you run Mythic Plus. I think, well, I shouldn't say that because maybe there are some people that are still trying to hunt for Keystone Master, but I think the majority of people that do Mythic Plus regularly in a season have already gotten Keystone Master, and I would think that they've gotten it pretty easily. I could be wrong, but I don't know. I don't necessarily think and maybe this is just me, late night, I'm a little tired, right? I'm just letting things fly, right, left and right, not even thinking about what I'm saying. But I don't know. Because like I said, I'm at this weird point of like, hey, typically in a season right now, I'd be done. Like once I get Keystone Hero, I'm pretty much done. I'll play some alts, maybe do some raiding with the guild, but for the most part, I'm done. But now I'm like, do I push? Do I not push? Do I get enjoyment out of pushing? Not really. And that's kind of the problem. Like if I push for Keystone Legend, it's really just going to be so I get a mount that I'll probably never use. Like am I enjoying it? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, you bring us some good points. I will say, I think leading into this season, I remember even on the podcast ringing the bell a little bit of like, hey guys, it looks like Keystone Master is being diminished even more, right? It does, and I don't think Keystone Legend is doing it. I actually just think it's just like I think they changed how dungeons work, and then they've made dungeons a little bit easier, right?
Yeah,
especially in that under 10 range, they've made them easier for sure. But what I will say is interesting is I actually really love Keystone Legend this season.
Okay.
Because it's a goal that is like just outside of my comfort zone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I remember the first time I got Keystone Master and how hyped I was. I was like, yo, I got Keystone Master. This is amazing. And then like 2 seasons later, I was like, I wonder if I can get Keystone Master week 1, right? And then I was like pushing for KSM week 1. I never did get it week 1, but I'd run like 1 dungeon week 2 and then like I had KSM, right? So,
right.
right. So at this point for me, KSM was already like a given, right? Like it was an achievement I didn't think about anymore. It was just like, oh yeah, that's gonna happen. I'm just gonna get it, right? Like I don't think about it because no matter what, I'll have it. Especially if I'm like, well, I want myth track gear in the vault. I gotta go run myth.
Oh yeah,
right.
like
right, yo. So even even with old standards, right? Like I would have had Keystone Master without actually working for Keystone Master. What I think the 4 levels are, right? You have Keystone Master, which, by the way, for sure, there are definitely people listening to the podcast who are like, yo, I actually would love to get Keystone Master. I don't know if I can do it. Well, you know what? Join our Discord. There's a link in the description. We got some awesome players who would love to help you. Whether that help is like running dungeons with you or even doing a little coaching. If you're just like, I don't know how to do this. Can somebody give me advice? Happy to. Right, but Keystone Master is number 1. Then I think you have Keystone Hero after Keystone Master. And Keystone Hero is kind of like, it's there, right? Keystone Hero has always kind of just been that achievement that's like, oh yeah, you got it. Nice. Right? And then you have portals, right? So portals are like all your 10s. Yeah. And then from portals, it's like, okay, then to Keystone Legend. And I do like that it's a little bit on the higher side, right? So it's not just like a hop over from portals. It's not like, well, I did all my 10s. Let me just go get all 11s now, right? It is right there. But what I think I really like about it, and again, I think it all depends on personal, right? Like right now, Chicken, you are a lot busier, right? So like, do you? Oh
yeah.
Like when you log into the game, you're probably like, dude, I really don't want to be running into keys that I'm not going to finish. Like I just don't want to be going into keys that are going to fall apart. And so time is a little bit more valuable, maybe. But for me, the value I have this season is I feel like Keystone Legend has actually forced me to grow tremendously as a player. A lot of things I've like previously like ignored, previously didn't want to worry about, previously didn't even think about, I'm now being like forced to face, right? And so like, dude, I'm hitting a hard wall right now. I got half my 12s done and I'm struggling. I'm actually struggling in these 12s. And there's a couple times where I'm just like emotionally just burned out. I'm just like, dude, I don't want to get yelled at again. I just don't want like another person scolding me. But the reality is I'm going into these 12s trying to tank them like they're 10s because I know how to tank a 10, right? I know how to do that. And I can't do it that way. And I got to pull bigger. I got to be riskier. I got to I got to go watch how other people are doing this and how they're coming up with strategies. Could I figure it out myself? Sure, I could. But I don't have the time to sit there and run it over and over and over and over and over again until I form my own strategy. And I really don't want to sit down and look at every mob's mechanics in the dungeon and figure out myself. So I go and I say, you know what? How does Dorky run this? Where does he go? What's his route? How does so-and-so run this, right? I pull up routes, find one that I like, that I think is comfortable for me, that works well for the tank I play, right? Like a Death Knight. And then I try to run it, right? And I think for me, though, it's just challenged me. It's challenged me tremendously as a player. And I think I've improved. I think I'm a way better tank this season than I was last season. I think this is one of my biggest growth seasons as a player, was this season over last season. And that's not like counting like the first season I did N+, right? It's not like, well, you know, the first season you did N+, you grew. No, like in terms of like me in the last, let's say in the last 2 expansions. So, this expansion and Dragonflight, I grew more this season, I think, as a player. And I think it's because of KSL. But also, if people don't want it, just don't do it. I think it's hard for you. Yeah. I think it's hard for you, Chicken, because all your friends are doing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely... I think my problem is, I think not only by the time I get like, I'm thinking like last season, by the time I get all my portals and I get KSH, sorry, too many KS blanks. By the time I get Keystone Hero, I'm like, I've just played way too much of these dungeons. Like I'm kind of just like almost dungeoned out, if you will.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of getting to that same point where like I'm getting dungeoned out, and I think part of my problem was I should have just started higher sooner. So I should have moved into like that 10 area like a little sooner in the season than I did, and I think that probably would have helped.
Yeah.
But I took my typical pace that I do, like I did last season, and I think it really burnt me out this season. And I've seen some other people kind of not the same, but like eerily similar burnout, where it's kind of like, oh, like they kind of like took a couple weeks off and then came back and then did it.
Yep.
And maybe that's what I'll do towards the end of the season, because I think it's probably safe to say we'll go until August with this season. I think that's probably safe.
There is an event somewhere that's a pretty good indicator, but I'd have to check.
Yeah, I think we talked a couple weeks ago that it was like end of July, early August.
Probably. That sounds about right. I think towards the end of summer.
Well, we haven't heard anything about. Well, we haven't heard anything. We haven't heard a launch date for 0.7.
No, you know what it is? It's the turbulent time waste thing, correct?
Oh, right. Yeah, I think that ended like end of July, early October, or early August, or something like that.
Yeah, because when that ends is pretty much guaranteed when the new season starts.
Yeah,
Blizzard always acts like it isn't. They're always like, I don't know, that's not. But every single time without fail, the moment that event ends, the next expansion or the next season starts. Every single time. I feel like they don't lock it in because they don't want to come back and be like, hey, we had to push it back. But then they never push it back. So.
Oh yeah, they never do.
I don't know. I think your point's valid though, right? Like I would say you're probably not the only one who's like, man, I don't like this achievement. But also I think it plays into, and this is a big problem with WoW players as a whole. And I know it's not your personality, so I can bring it up. Sure. But I do think I see a lot with WoW players that sometimes they don't know how to just turn it off. They don't know how to look at something and be like, oh, I don't need to have that thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's hard. And even with like achievements, right? There are players out there. It's like, hey, dude, sometimes like just be okay not having it. Be okay not having Keystone Legend. Be okay not having the mount. I might never get it. I might never. Right now, I'm having fun, but the moment I go, I can't do this anymore. I need to just go do something else, because otherwise, like, and I need to be okay with that, right? Like, I need to like come to terms with like, I'm just not gonna get that mount, or I'm not gonna get that achievement, and then go do something else. And that way, when the season ends and I don't get it, I'm not sitting there like angry or upset. I do think though sometimes with WoW, it's easy to just be like, I want to have everything. I want to have access to all the stuff. And then you just don't enjoy the game. You literally just don't enjoy the game because and people are like, yeah, that's why Blizzard needs to not have FOMO. They need to not do FOMO. It's like, no, FOMO builds hype. FOMO builds hype to do stuff. It's on you as a person to be like, no, it's okay for me not to have that, right? And that's the hard thing, is I think it's too easy to be like, okay, hot take, super hot take here. A lot of times when I hear people getting angry about FOMO stuff, like, oh, Keystone Master is a FOMO mount. It's unfair that if you don't do it that season, you can't get in. And then you're just going to have to play to get it. And I'm like, then just don't get it and be okay. Like, I don't think it's fair to blame the company over someone's inability to regulate their own emotions.
That's pretty fair.
That's my hot take, by the way.
I would tend to agree on that.
Right. Now, when I phrase it that way, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But I am sure if I posted that on Twitter, I would get flamed. I mean, X, the Everything app, I would get flamed.
Oh, my gosh. No. There's no way.
I
think people would agree with you a little bit.
Dude, you should have seen the comments, like, what was it, like a year ago when they were like leaking that one mount from like Keystone, or one like raid mount or something from forever ago was maybe coming back in like the item shop.
In the item shop or in
the trading post?
Travelers. Oh, the trading post. Yeah. I mean, that would upset me. I mean, the trading post is, trading post definitely is a little sour when it comes to that stuff.
No, see, because I agree with you, by the way. I'm in agreement. So what was happening is that you had a mix of people that were angry because they're like, this shouldn't come back. It was a prestige mount at the time, right? I think it was an AOTC mount, actually. I think it was an AOTC mount. And people were like, this was a prestige mount at the time. If you got it, you got it. If you don't have it. Like, don't bring it back. And then a bunch of people were like, you didn't even work for it. You just paid for the carry to get the mount, right? Because that was everybody's argument. Everybody's argument was like, well, you could just pay for a carry, so it's not that prestigious. So right? But ultimately, what they were trying to do is they were just trying to validate their own inability to regulate their emotions regarding an item in the game, right? Like, now, Now, the alternative, if somebody really wanted to argue me, they'd be like, well, swag is literally just an item in the game that they pay for the game. They pay for the time to play the game. Why can't they have it, right? So that would be the argument. But again, most of them don't even want to use the mount. They just want to have it because they feel like they should have it, right? They're not going to use it. They're not going to ride that mount. But they're going to be like, well, I need that number in my journal, right? I need that extra number in there so I can have the 500 mounts I want to have or whatever it is. And if you love mount collecting, you love mount collecting. Right? Like, that's awesome. And I don't think it's just mounts. I think it's armor, too, right? We saw it with the dinars. We saw it when the Puzzling Cartel chips came in, and people are like, what do you mean I can't have access to myth track gear without having to kill myth bosses?
Yeah.
And it's like,
okay, makes sense.
Whatever. Like, and then like all the like M+ players who are like revolting, and they're like, I want access to that gear. It's unfair that the raiders have access to that gear. And it's like, okay, then go raid. Go, okay,
yeah, right.
Go raid. I don't want to do it. I don't want to spend the time. Okay, then you don't. Then there's your answer. If you don't want it, you don't want it. Like, choose one. Choose, like, if you want it or not. And by the way, the argument doesn't even make sense. I know this is an old topic, but I thought about it the other day. I was like, the argument doesn't even make sense because every mythic raider out there who's, like, pushing has to also do high-level keys. They have to do high-level keys to get the gear, and they have to do high-level keys to sell key runs in order to help fund their guild bank and fund getting enchants and potions and everything that they need, right? Yes. And so I'm like looking at it and I'm like, why? You know they have to do it too, right? You know the raiders have to do the M+ content. So M+ers, if you want the gear, go do the raid, right? Like, just go, I don't know what to tell you. Go do the raid. And so, anyways, all that to say, I do think FOMO is an interesting thing in WoW because I think Blizzard gets blamed for it a lot. But
they do.
But Blizzard's just here to encourage people to play the game, right? They're just here to build hype, which is, by the way, good for you. As the player, that is good for you, for Blizzard to build hype and bring people back to the game. That is good. Yeah, you want Blizzard to do that. You want people playing. You want people in your groups. You want people signing up. We got a tank shortage. We got a healer shortage. Well, guess what? More people means more tanks, more healers. Also means more DPS, so maybe those shortages will increase. I don't know what to tell you. But I think the FOMO issue isn't a problem with Blizzard creating prestigious things that people can achieve and work for during an expansion or season. I think the FOMO problem is really players need to be able to step back and be like, you know what? I don't want to put the work in for that thing. I don't want to play WoW during season, or my life's busy. And by the way, sometimes you ready for a mega hot take, Austin? You ready for a mega hot take?
Straight doxed me. Dude, yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, my bad. Chicken, you ready for the hot? Like, okay, this one might actually upset people. This one, and we have hot takes from our Discord later that we're going to talk about. But I might have the hottest take here.
We get time, bro.
I might have the hottest take here.
Hot takes.
I might have the hottest take here. If you're complaining that IRL things are in the way of you getting something you want in the game, then don't do the IRL things. Quit your job.
Whoa.
Stop hanging out with your family. Go get that item. And by the way, though, what you're gonna do is go, well, no, I need my job because I need the money. Why do you need the money? Oh, because there's things you want to pay for with that money. Oh, Chicken, you're gonna take a break and not get KSL possibly because your new child's gonna be born. Well, why don't you get KSL instead of hanging out with your brand new daughter, right? Like, why not, right? No, because you want to hang out with your daughter. You want to hang with your daughter. Ultimately, and I'm getting to a point. I'm stirring up the anger here to get to a point. Ultimately, you're saying, no, there is actually something more important to me than this random item in the game that I'm going to put more time into. And acknowledge that. Accept that, right? Like for Chicken, when he says, no, I would way rather hang out with my brand new daughter that I'm going to love and cherish than worry about some mount that I'm never going to ride. Guess what? When he doesn't get that mount that he's never going to ride, he's not going to be upset because he's going to know, no, I chose something that was way better for me.
Yeah.
And he made that choice. He made that choice.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It definitely is okay.
Not just okay. I'd say I'd actually be upset with you, by the way, if you didn't make that choice. If your wife was like, dude, you got to tell Austin to stop playing that game. I'd be like, listen, I agree with you.
I feel like there'd be a ton of people upset with me. But, I mean, I just don't... My thing is, for me to push that hard, it has to be pretty legit. Yeah. And, I don't know, the amount for KSL just isn't there. Yeah, it's cool, but, like... It's just not there.
Yeah, and by the way, though, guess what? If that's somebody's choice, if I hit that point where I'm like, you know what? It's just not fun for me to push it. Guess what? When I don't get that mount, I'm never going to be like, oh, I missed out. I'll never have the opportunity. This sucks. I'll be like, oh, yeah, remember. It just wasn't fun. I did something else that was more fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Whatever. Right? Like, okay, moving on.
Dude, first of all, let's talk about the friggin' mythic dungeon friggin' mounts, dude. I feel like this... Okay, Season 1 wasn't bad. That was kind of cool. Season 2's, they're just not there, dude. I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
The like goblin spider shredder looking things.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan.
Yeah, they're okay. One thing I will say, I go back and forth. I think that I don't mind having ground mounts as KSM rewards.
Yeah.
I actually think ground mounts as KSM rewards are one of the best times to give out ground mounts. KSM, I think, is a good ground mount, and PvP, I think, is a good ground mount. And the reason being is because in both of those environments, you are exclusively using ground mounts, right? Maybe Dawnbreaker, maybe Narn Plains. 2 out of what, like 100 dungeons or something? Like 200 dungeons, right? Two dungeons that you can actually like use dragon riding in, or sky flying or sky riding or whatever, right? But so I actually think ground mounts work perfectly. I just don't. Maybe it's not my favorite design, but it's a cool design. It still works. I'm surprised we didn't see variations of last season's mount, but also
I was a little surprised on that.
But also, it kind of leaves me hopeful that maybe next season's mount will be something cool too, right? Like the fact that it's like, we're not. It's not guaranteed that you just get a color. Because remember, last expansion, right? I think it was like week 1. I think like week 1 we knew what every mount was going to look like, right?
Oh yeah, that was.
And do you remember getting like the season 1 KSM mount, and which was the lamest of them all by the way. It didn't even have to be.
Like,
they could have made it so much cooler. But for whatever reason they didn't. They just didn't make it cool, right? And
that was a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah, right. And like we're like getting this mount, but then we like right after getting it, they show us like we get like leaked files of like what the fire and grass one are gonna like would look like, and you're like, wait a second, I want the other starter Pokemon.
Yeah, really. Yeah, dude. Last season's last expansion's KSM mounts were like even worse, and I liked the fire one. The fire one was I actually like it, but also I like Kodos. Even though I play Alliance, I think Kodos are cool mounts. Yeah, but like the thing that upset me so much was like they were like stomped on in comparison to A, the PvP mounts, and B, the raid mounts.
Yeah, it also was an odd mount to have the expansion or even just the season that they released dragon riding, right? Because that was a little odd to be like, oh hey, you have dragon riding, but by the way, here's your KSM mount. But again, though, that was the one place you were going to use riding, like ground riding.
Yeah,
was going to be in the dungeon, so it kind of. But yeah, it was interesting.
My question for Blizzard is, if we're big on making mounts for PvP, maybe not as much PvP, but definitely raid.
Yeah,
we're big on making mounts for raid revolved around the raid. I think they should make KSM mounts revolved around dungeons. Like,
that makes sense.
Hey, it would have been cool if we would have got like the first boss in Floodgate, the first boss that most people go to. It kind of rides in that like drone, kind of similar to Styx Bunk Junker. If they would have made that the KSM mount, boom, easy money.
Oh, dude, awesome. That was a sick mount. That was a sick mount, right? And probably uses the same skeleton as the season 1 mount, right? So it would have still been pretty much in line. Maybe they were hesitant about it because they knew that there was one in raid. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's hard.
Yeah, but it is interesting because there are like cool mounts out there, right? And again, they're trying to theme it for the goblin thing, so it is what it is. But Chicken, there's a little bit of news this week in WoW, right? A couple things happening.
A little bit, just a little bit. Yeah. So I think there's two things. Two things. There's one bigger item that we'll talk about a little bit. I want to touch on Horrific Visions. That came out the last update.
Okay.
And I just wanted your thoughts. Have you done any?
I have not a ton, but I did do a little bit. I need to do more because I think that enchantment or whatever is really nice, and so I need to kind of go.
Yeah, it is.
I need to get it. I haven't gotten it yet, but I did do some. I remember the first one I walked in, I was just like, "What the heck is going on?" And I was so upset because I was like, I was trying to figure it out. The one thing I don't like is they kind of keep sending you back in with like a little bit more info each time. And it's the way that they teach you, which by the way is like good. It's good that they're trying to teach you how to do it. But the fact that they just send you in kind of blind the first time is like, I remember as soon as we finished it, rather than going to turn in the quest and like then getting the next quest that taught me a little bit more, I spent like 15 minutes trying to find the answers on like YouTube. Right. Which is like 15 minutes I didn't need to spend because then they started to teach me more like right off the bat. But I kind of wish maybe they had just, took the time to. I don't know. I don't know. Actually. But also, I wasn't really reading the quest text, so maybe that's on me.
Oh, well, I mean, come on. Who reads that stuff?
That's true. That's a good point.
Who reads that stuff anyways? But yeah, I did one or two. I was kind of in the same boat. I'm like, I need to kind of revisit this. It looks like it's going to be a great way of like gearing alts up and doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's definitely obviously something that I want to get into.
I had fun doing it. I have no complaints.
Yeah, I think it was kind of cool little 0.5 patch, because technically this is part of 0.5 patch.
Yeah.
This is kind of that like, hey, we're just gonna like map out things along the 0.5, and this is one of them.
Which I think is a good idea, right? Because they have a few different events happening, and if they all just happened at the same time, it would have felt awkward. I would have felt like I had too much. Right? Because again, I only have so much time during the week, and I already want to run dungeons, right? Like that's what I really want to be doing. So like, I don't want to have them be like, oh, hey, here's 3 obligatory things you have to get done now, on top of running dungeons. So I like that they pace out. Said we're gonna do this for this period of time, then we're gonna do this for this period of time. It feels good. It gives me like reasons to log in.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think it's kind of cool little notion to get people to log in, and it's also great for like alt leveling. Or not alt leveling, alt gearing, which is always a good thing, man. We never have enough hero track gear? You can never get enough hero track gear, dude. It's so hard to get hero track gear.
The hero track gear is
season 2. So hard.
It's so easy, bro. Hero track gear is like so easy.
It's like free almost. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, it is. It is a little sad, but also kind of fun. Like I'm enjoying it, but also I don't know if it's good for the game, right? Like it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, this is nice and convenient for me for gearing up alts. Is this actually good though, right? Because I know myself well enough to know that like I'm going for myth track gear, right? I'm not even thinking about hero track gear. I'm like, I'm just trying to get myth, right? But what about players who historically hero track gear is what they were pushing for, right? Like they were like, oh, I'm never getting myth, but if I can get some hero track pieces, that would be awesome, right? Now they're just like geared up. Week 3, then what?
Yeah, like what's next for me, right?
Yeah, maybe it just feels that way. Maybe it just feels that way. By the way, sorry I interrupt you, but maybe it just feels that way because we're running like 10 keys or something that are dropping heroes left and right? And so maybe for us it feels even more abundant than it actually is. But I don't know. It does feel overabundant.
Yeah, well, I mean, not even that. It's just the fact that it doesn't even feel like champion gear is even necessary. Like it's like you can basically skip over, like forget veteran, like who even cares about veteran gear, right? Dude, you skip gear, over that.
I have so here's an interesting note, right? I was on my paladin, starting to gear that up a little bit. Yeah. And I have 1 tier piece on my paladin. Again, just kind of started gearing up. Yeah. But I have a couple champion pieces in some tier slots. And so I could easily convert them. And I have the tokens if I want to convert it, right? But then I'm like looking at it and I'm like, but hero gear is so free. Do I really want to waste tokens to convert champion gear to tier, right? Like I should probably convert hero gear to tier potentially. And then if I ever get myth track slots on this character, I probably won't. I'm not really planning on pushing that character hard, right? Then I can convert them, right? So it's funny how it does change your perspective when you know how easy it can be to just get that gear that you want.
Yeah, it's a little different, but I mean, what can you do, right? It's a game we play. It's a game we love. World of Warcraft, baby.
Absolutely. Well, there are, it is a game that's changing though, dude. Have you seen this stuff that's happening with add-ons? Major
Yeah,
add-ons news this week.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. That's a whole nother topic that we'll segue into right now, actually.
Yeah, sorry, little segue there, man. But do you know the details of the add-on changes, or would you like a refresher?
Excuse me. I know a few of them. We got, when was it? It was last patch.
Yeah.
That they did the big or it was 0.5 patch that they did the hey, let's talk about they added the cooldown manager, and then they also were like, hey, let's talk about all these new things. Hey, we're gonna add
the Hikili, the one button rotation.
Yeah, button rotation, and maybe even a DBM and things like that. Details was another big thing.
Yep.
So I mean,
so there's a lot more to it.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't know how much you know, but I'll give you a little bit of a overview. So there's another interview with Ian, talking about the add-ons and what their plans are for the add-ons and what's gonna be going on. And essentially, they really want to cut back on any type of add-on that assists you in combat, heavily cut back on them. And the initial conversation though was well, we can't do that because then it'll mess up damage meters, because then damage meters can't properly track damage, or it'll mess up DBM stuff, or it'll mess up all these things, right? And so the team kind of stopped and went, well, what if we just had a damage meter built into the game? What if we just had a boss mod built into the game, like DBM, right? And that way, and the cooldown manager built into the game, and so that way we don't need these things. And so the uproar right now, or the fear right now that a lot of players have, is that Blizzard's going to put these into the game, and then they're going to phase out the use of maybe more extensive add-ons. Like weak orbs will probably always be around, but we'll probably see how effective weak orbs is get significantly diminished, right? Because what they're not going to just come in and be like, hey, these add-ons are banned, because then what happens is then players just do the content without streaming it, and so they still use the add-ons, right? That's the Final Fantasy problem. Everybody in Final Fantasy uses add-ons, but add-ons are banned in Final Fantasy, so they just don't stream it. They just don't stream it, right? They just don't show you using the add-ons. And so that's the question here is how do they maybe reduce the add-ons access to certain information, right? How do they reduce access to combat logs? How do they reduce access to different things? And there's a lot to it. That's a pretty brief overview. The fear that people have, though, is that Blizzard's not going to do a good job. And so now all of a sudden you're going to be going into content that's exactly the same as is now, but with significantly less tools. And it's funny because I'll watch all these M+ players talk about it. And it's okay, well then you just won't do keys that are as high as the keys you're doing now. All right. It'll still be just as challenging. It'll still be just as fun. You just maybe won't be doing quite at the level you're doing right now, because now you have to, again, you're still going to be challenged, right? But I actually, or they're well, what if we go to raid and we literally can't kill a boss because we have to use a weak order to kill the boss? Well, I think the problem right now is I think Blizzard has been in an arms race for a long time with add-ons, right? And so what happens is every time there's a challenge, whether it's in M+ or it's in raid, people come up with add-ons. They come up with tools to track information that helps them better overcome those fights, those challenges. And then Blizzard comes back and goes, oh, never mind, they're using add-ons to overcome this. We got to make it even more complicated. So they come back, they make it even more complicated. My gut tells me, and by the way, these changes won't happen this patch or next patch. So I believe they said it's not coming in 11.1.7, and it's not coming in 11.2, right? So we're safe at least there. We might see it pre-patch. We might see it come in pre-patch, but as far as we know, not 0.7, not in 0.2. So I think what we're going to see happens, I think we're going to see Blizzard, and by the way, it might take a season. It might take a season for things to balance out and feel comfortable. So just be ready for a rough season when it happens. That's okay. That is okay. I believe this will make a better game. I really do. But they're gonna have to tone back the fights. right? And they're going to have to make everything in fights more understandable. You're going to, right, like in order for that to happen. And by the way, though, if they don't do it well, the player feedback will probably push them to, put things back the way they were. But I think the goal is ultimately to make a game that people can log in and play. They can log in and play. Right now, WoW has a big problem. WoW has a major problem. And I don't care how angry you get, WoW has to fix this. And that problem is that new players don't come to WoW.
No, they don't.
WoW thrives off returning players. That is their thing. Now, I work hard because I love the game to bring people into the game. I brought Chicken in and others, but that's not the norm. WoW is not the current leveling experience is not engaging, and then players hit max level, and they're immediately told that in order to do anything, they have to download a bunch of add-ons, and it makes no sense. They have to go get a third-party program, install CurseForge, and then go find specific add-ons just to participate in a raid night with their guild.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. So, and in such a competitive environment, they don't even know if they're doing okay. They're getting yelled at in groups. They don't even know if they're doing okay or why people are yelling at them because they don't have a damage meter, right? So they don't even know what's going on. All of this stuff is happening. I think Blizzard is making steps that are deeply necessary to create a game that people can just get into and play. And if that means the top 0.1% of players are going to have a slightly different experience without all their combat add-ons, oh well, whatever, deal with it. Now, some of the things they're angry about is like, oh, you won't be able to see what cooldowns your teammates have available to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not a huge deal.
Now, in high keys, yeah, sure, that probably is a bigger deal. Well, then you're going to have to communicate more. And maybe not pug some of those keys. Maybe you got to be in VC and chat. And I get it. For a 0.1% of the player base, again, I want to articulate, not even 0.1% of the player base, 0.1% of the player base that have run Mythic keys, right? That, yeah, sure, that definitely affects you. I get it. But for everybody else, I think it will ultimately make a better experience. And I like add-ons. I'm actually an advocate for add-ons. I like them. But I also know what it takes to get people into this game. And whatever it takes, I want people to play WoW. I want people to come in and play the game. And so, yeah, but that's what's happening though. They're making a lot of changes.
Yeah, and this is my 2 cents. I don't necessarily disagree. I do like when things are simple and simplistic. I've never been a huge fan of like a bunch of weak auras and a bunch of add-ons. Like I've never been a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
But I do like the customization that add-ons bring, and I like.
They did say that's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and that's the key. Like I've tried the in-game cooldown manager. It's just not there yet. Like it needs to be customizable. It needs to be, it needs a little bit of work, right? And that's just going to take time, right? I mean, it's kind of like where you said, like there might be some lull, right? We got to just work with them, right? I mean, Blizzard's doing this for a reason, obviously. I think they want to kind of have a game that's more, like you said, user friendly. It kind of is hey, you don't need to go here. It's kind of like when you want to play, this is like a really weird thing. It's kind of like playing Minecraft, right? But then you're like, wait, I want to play like a really cool version of Minecraft. So you download all these packs and all these things, and then like your Minecraft looks like CGI and like CG. Yeah, it looks like really futuristic, and like you got like all this depth and all this stuff. And you're like, oh, this is like such a good way to play Minecraft. And it's like, I feel like that's how people think about WoW, but it's like, yeah, I mean, it's cool, but like, I want it to be easily accessible. Like, I want everyone to kind of enjoy that, and I think that's where we're gonna get eventually.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think they got to work on it a little bit. Customization is key, right? Right now, it's like just blanket, like the cooldown manager just gives you like all your cooldowns, and it's like, I don't want all of them. I want some of them.
Yep.
Some of them I don't care about, right? I don't care about my Icebound Fortitude as much as I care about my Dancing Rune weapon, or I don't care about my, I don't know, my AMZ as much as I might care about my, it's not Brain Freeze, is it? The
whatever you're
the pick for
interrupted.
DKs.
Yeah. Mind freeze, I think.
Like some of them I just don't care about as much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we got to have some customization there, but I think this is the right direction. And you know, I think, personally, I think they're moving maybe a little geared towards console because we know what's happening on consoles. But I don't know. I could be wrong.
It's hard to tell. It is hard to tell. We are looking at, by the way, they are owned by Microsoft now, right?
Yeah.
And we are looking at a potential new Xbox console coming out that has access to things like Steam, right? So
yes,
if they were to put WoW on console, which I've never been a huge advocate for, add-ons were always, I think, a major part of that as one element. But if they were to make that move, then yeah, I would not be surprised to see WoW come out this next console generation. What I will say too, though, is again, it's only combat add-ons right now that are being looked at, right? So your mount farming add-ons, even like I use. Okay, so one thing, because Weak Ores is a unique one, right? Like Weak Ores is often used for combat, but not always. I have a Weak Ore set up that whenever I'm standing in Dornogal, it will show me how many crests I have of each crest type. It'll show me what key I have.
Yeah.
It'll show me how many flight stones or valor stones I have, how many tendies I have for the trading post. And it's just like a custom little Weak Ore I made for myself to track all those things and just put some little squares in my corner. And then certain zones, it'll actually transform and shift to show me different things, maybe things I'm trying to collect in that area. It's designed in a way that's pretty easy for me to like quickly just update and add things to it. That's not going to change, right? Like that's still accessible. No. What Weak Ores won't be able to do, though, is pull certain combat information during a fight to give me that info. Now, here's the question I have for you, Chicken. This is what I want to pick your brain on. Do you think it's going to take a couple seasons for Blizzard to actually figure out how to do this well? Because what I'm picturing happening is like, again, they don't want you to be able to track each other's cooldowns, right? Yeah. So what's to stop us from just having our abilities either through an add-on or a macro every time I hit Icebound Fortitude, or let's say Dancing Rune Weapon. Every time I hit Dancing Rune Weapon, no, Icebound Fortitude's a better one, I think. Every time I hit Icebound Fortitude, right, because that's a more consistent CD, it just pops into chat, swag, Icebound Fortitude, and then everybody's add-on sees that chat message and then goes, okay, he has this much time left on this cooldown, so let's back up, right?
Yeah, imagine.
Right, so that's part of the question too, right? Like, part of the question is like, back when they did the private auras for a little bit, didn't really affect us, but in mythic rating, it affected them because all of a sudden things that Weak Ores could have handled not super easily, but more relatively easily, were all of a sudden having to be like tied to like macros where they'd have to like hit buttons in chat. So like if they had like the red debuff on them, they had to hit their red macros. So then every Weak Ore would know who has what, and then they could calculate from there. And it was just obnoxious. It was just an obnoxious extra step. Are we going to see a season where Blizzard thinks they figured it out, because they need to test it, and they need to test it with people who are going to actually try to break it, right, and do it? Are we going to see a season where all of these things that we're currently used to are actually still going to be expected in content, but now they're just like 5 times more annoying to use?
Oh yeah, I think so, and I mean, I think the kicker is how much can we do to make it easy for us, right? And who is doing that, right? I mean, when you're talking about this level of dungeons, I mean, we're talking like high keys, like we're talking like 14s, 15s, 16s, right? Like, I don't think I've ever been in a key where someone has asked me like my cooldowns, which I don't know. Maybe they've been tracking them. It's possible, but like personally, I never track people's cooldowns.
In high keys, they do, but yeah, generally, right? Like now, sometimes if I'm running keys in voice chat with friends, oh for sure, right? Like, hey guys, let's pull big here. I have this available, right?
Yeah, and that's fine. Like that's a little more. That's not as, what's the word I'm looking for? That's not as like formal, if you will, where like someone, you know, in a hierarchy is like a little more tracking, like, oh, I need to like wait to pull this until this second, then they have this and blah blah blah. Where it's like, hey, pull big, I have stuff, right?
Yeah.
Granted, you know, I think I'm surprised there's not some pushback here. I feel like we'll get pushback once it gets closer to time, but you know, I think obviously they're gonna have to test the waters, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But I'd rather them have like a one-stop shop and it be like a little rough for a season than just continue like add-ons and things like that. I mean,
Yeah.
things that like if they make base game things feel good, I think that's just helpful. You know, my big thing is, the biggest takeaway that I have for this is, you know, DBM versus actual gameplay, right? Like that's my biggest takeaway from this, right? And that's the biggest thing that scares me, right? DBM is a helpful tool and it's great, but like, you know, for me, after like the first like 4, you know, 5 times you run something, it's like, okay, like DBM's just there, right? Like the other day I was thinking like, oh, I haven't heard DBM call outs in a hot minute. And I was like, how long has DBM been turned off for? Or like, how long has DBM not been there? Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like once you do like a dungeon like 10 times, like DBM is merely just like
extra noise, right? Just noise, yeah.
Yeah, it basically just extra noise, right? So like my thing is like, if they're making these things a lot easier, is that take away skill? Does it take away, gameplay duration? You know, if I can just easily one shot a boss on heroic, like, does that take away satisfaction? You know, am I just going to streamline keys because they're easier because we don't have DBM like that? You know, that's my biggest concern, right? Because I like DBM and I like what it does for the game, but I don't ever think, in my instance, I don't ever use it as a crutch. I use it more as like what it's meant to be, a guide, right? I use it like a lamp pretty much, to get me around this darkness, right? I'm not like,
well, that's what a lot of people say for things like big wigs or weak wars or whatever, where they're like, or even DBM, where it's like you're supposed to customize it to the things you need, right? So you're not just going, oh, hey, alert me for everything, but you're like, hey, alert me for the things that actually matter.
Right.
And I will say, right, like I was just running some keys earlier, and if anybody who was running keys with me earlier is listening to the podcast, hey, I'm not throwing you under the bus. You're all good. I had a blast. I genuinely had a blast running keys. However, our group was not interrupting much, and right, now part of it was I don't think our group really had any. Like, I don't think we had any specs that had good like AOE stops or anything. So it wasn't, so it was kind of like the little mix of like not a great build for the party, right? But then also just we were running maybe less familiar dungeoneers through the dungeons, and so so like, but that's just like the nature of it, right? Which it makes it incredibly more difficult. I think part of the question right now, because most people aren't asking, is it going to be too easy? Most people are asking right now, is it going to be way too hard without their add-ons?
Oh, yeah.
And that's the question a lot of people are asking. And I think the problem that we face right now, right, like, is again, it's like, hey, look, there's one mob in here that has to be kicked. Well, DBM reminds you to kick it. Okay, well, you know what? Never mind. Now there's 2 mobs. Okay, DBM reminds you both of them. All of a sudden, now we hit the point where it's like, hey, you have 3 mobs, and they're constantly trying to spam bone spears on you nonstop, and you just have to keep right, like, and if one of them hits you, you're dead, right? So, it's the escalation is kind of crazy, where these add-ons kind of have to exist because the same game is so difficult right now, but the game is so difficult right now because these add-ons exist. So their own existence ended up creating a deeper need for them, and I think that was kind of a big part of the conversation there.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the other side of the coin that I wasn't really necessarily thinking about. I'm like, oh, are they gonna dumb things down like so much that that it's easy?
I think we're gonna have a
Excuse
season
me.
that feels too hard first,
You think?
and
Okay.
then it's gonna smooth out. I think it's gonna feel too hard at first, and I think players can be doing lower content than they're familiar with doing. But again, if it's a challenge, it's a challenge. Who cares what the number attached to that challenge is?
Yeah.
If it's a challenge, it's a challenge, right? Like the fun of the game should still be the fun of the game. But why don't we shift gears, because we are getting a little bit long-winded, I think, today. Not too bad though, not too bad. But we got some more content to talk about. But before we talk about anything else on the podcast, we're going to take a quick break and discuss with everybody something that Chicken and I are very excited about. You will see now when this podcast episode goes live that there is a link to our Patreon in the description. We have loved making this podcast. This is episode 38 of the podcast. We have not missed a single week. We look forward to this, by the way. There are a lot of times where I have things on my schedule that I am like, ugh, I gotta go do this for an hour or 2 hours or whatever. But when it comes to the podcast, man, I never dread going into it. I never go into like, ugh, I gotta fill this out. Like, this is genuinely with you, Chicken, I mean, I love the podcast, but I love the conversation you and I get to have. Like, I actually always look forward to this so much. It is a highlight of my week, and we love doing this, and we love creating the content for everybody who's listening. But we also want to create more content, and we want to keep this going. We want to make this something that we can do long term. And this means a lot. And so we want to give you, our listeners, an opportunity to kind of support this podcast, support what we're doing, and allow us to create more content. So you'll see a link to our Patreon. And in the Patreon, there's going to be 3 tiers that are available. Just an easy little $2 tier for just support, just to show some support to the podcast. And it'll give you access to our Discord as well, which, not our Discord server, but a channel, I should clarify, a channel in the Discord where we'll have just our Patreon community members, and maybe we'll share some special conversations in there and do some extra stuff in there. And of course, priority when we have too many listener questions. This week we forgot to ask for listener questions, so luckily we don't have too many, but some weeks when we ask, we'll end up with like 5 or 6 questions, and it can be a little too much for the podcast. And so at that point, we'd love to prioritize our Patreon supporters. And then we're looking at another tier above that. We call it the content tier, and that is just still everything that you have before the Patreon access, the priority on questions, but also we're going to have some post-pod content. That means that at the end of every podcast, Chicken and I are going to record a little extra content and post it to the Patreon. Maybe continuation of some conversations that got cut short, or maybe a topic or things that are on our mind that we just couldn't fit into the normal time frame of the podcast. That's going to go there. Now, to clarify, we're not going to shorten how long the podcast episodes are in order to make that happen. We're not going to do that. This is extra bonus content on top of what we're already offering to everybody else. And then potentially, we'll see, but potentially some early access depending upon when we record the podcasts. So you might be able to get the podcast on a Friday on their Patreon rather than the upcoming Monday morning. Or sometimes it might be Sunday night. It kind of depends on when him and I are able to find time in our schedule to record. But whenever the podcast is edited, it will get posted to the Patreon. So you'll be able to have some earlier access to that. And then last and our final tier, and this one is not for everybody. In fact, it's so not for everybody that we're actually limiting it to 2 slots only. And we're calling it the Guildmaster tier. So everything that we talked about before, you'll still have access to. However, the reason why we call this the Guildmaster tier, and it's a good bit more expensive, it's a higher support tier, is because as Chick and I are talking about sponsorships and promotions on the podcast, right? Ways that we can help kind of just fund this content that we're creating. We kind of stopped and said, but wait, what if rather than our normal types of advertisements and things and promotionals, what if we gave guild masters the opportunity to promote their guilds, even if they just want to jump in for 1 month and support? What that means, though, that in the Guildmaster tier, if you are subbed at that level, every month or every week during that month, we will make a promotion. We'll work with you to design a promotion for your guild on the podcast, because we do want to help connect our listeners with amazing guilds Chicken and I talk about our guild, Astra, all the time. We love our guild. It is an amazing guild, but it has a very specific demographic. We are a guild for maybe somewhat more casual players who want to start dipping their toes into some content like raiding and plus, but maybe also just want to have friends who collect mounts with them. So there's different guilds for different people out there, and so we want to help you. If you feel like this would be a platform you want to promote your guild on, we would love to help you do that and get to know you, and that is the Guild Master tier. And so those 3 tiers are going to be on our Patreon. We're not going to talk about this in depth every week. We're just excited to do this because back when we started the podcast, Chicken and I, we kind of had a goal that we were like, if we hit this goal on weekly episode downloads, then we'll launch the Patreon. And we blew past that goal so fast that we actually we're actually like well beyond that goal. We just didn't think we'd hit it so quick, so we weren't totally prepared. But y'all have just been the best community, the best listeners. We're so thankful for everything that you guys have been kind of pouring into the podcast. So I just want to give a big thanks for that.
Yeah.
But with that said,
that's pretty good.
Absolutely.
I just real quick, I think there's some opportunity to maybe even do some other side content that maybe I'm personally looking into and how else we can grow this kind of brand that we have, the Warbands, outside of just the podcast. So maybe stick tuned for that as well. Not just the Patreon. If obviously, not everyone can support us with dollars or dineros or euros or whatever you want to pay for. So, maybe there's some opportunity to support us in other ways. So, yeah, stay tuned for that too.
Absolutely. And I would say if you like, the best way to support the community, just hang on our Discord. We are working on creating something awesome in our Discord, and like just hanging out in there, chatting with us about WoW. It's been fun lately because it took some time. But we're really seeing a lot of players in there who just love talking about WoW, who have daily conversations about WoW. It's fun. It is a lot of fun. But with that said, we have some questions for the podcast today. And by the way, if you ever want to send your questions into the podcast, speaking of the Discord, you can join our Discord and go to the Pod Questions channel. So if you go to the Pod Questions channel, you can put your questions in there, and we will answer them live on the podcast. We love doing this. It's one of our favorite times of the week. And I believe we might actually have 2 questions now. I think somebody got their question in right at the last second. Literally saw the Pod Questions channel light up as we were talking about the Patreon stuff.
Oh, man.
So it's perfect timing. It's perfect timing. So, Chicken, you want to read that first question?
Yeah, sure. Comes from Rack. Good old Racky. His question is, how do you guys feel about time gating? Is it something that has been in the game, or it is something that's been in the game for a hot minute now? This current patch has taken it to another level, it feels. Is it necessarily evil, or does it feel good to most people? My thought is, what if instead of time gating players for hitting the cap, there simply was no cap? What if I could farm power infinitely to help me continue to climb in an M+ system that scales infinitely? That gets boring eventually too, but sounds funner to me than hurrying up to wait.
Big time gating question. I think that's been all the rage right now.
Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to cough real quick. Yeah, I mean, time gating, it does feel bad, for the most part. And I don't disagree with you, Rack, because I think there is some joy in just kind of just running things until you literally get sick to the stomach of running it and you just don't want to do it anymore. And I think you would find that even time gating doesn't help that. But from a business standpoint, I understand why they time gate things. And I think there are people that just don't have all the time in the world to play WoW. And I'm not saying that you are one of those people, Rack. And if you are, that's perfect. If you aren't, that's perfect too. Like, everyone's got a different schedule. Obviously, some people can't just grind the game constantly. So I think it kind of helps make that equal playing field for the people that can just play, 5-6 hours a day versus the people that might only get to play 5-6 hours a week, right? That's my thought.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the answer to your question is alts. Like, that's the answer to what to meet that feeling that you want to feel right now. The answer is alts, right? You just make more alts. But I'll give you a good example. So we saw time gating as you described it, or like infinite power scaling. We saw it a little bit in Legion, but I'm not the most familiar with Legion, so I don't want to use that as my reference because I'll say things that aren't correct. But we saw it with Mists of Pandaria Remix. So when Mists of Pandaria Remix came out, and I think we'll see it with the upcoming Legion Remix even more. I think we're absolutely going to see it with the upcoming Legion Remix. The problem is it's not as fun. It's not as fun. Actually, like genuinely as a player, it's not as fun. Now, it's fun for some people, but it's not as fun for everybody. And Mop Remix is a great example of that. Mop Remix launched, and you had a few mega sweaty players find the fastest possible way to like farm power in Mop Remix, and they just got like Giga Chad super fast.
Giga Chad.
And then they just kept scaling, right? And all of a sudden, you like Mop Remix was lame because you join Mop Remix and you'd be like, oh, I'm never catching up to that. I'm never catching up to that. There's no conceivable way anybody's catching up to that. I'm out. I'm done. I'm going home. That's why I didn't play Mop, by the way. I like went into Mop Remix. I went to Mop Remix and I was like, oh, this is stupid. Everybody's so strong. I'm just getting carried in all the content I'm doing. And I left. It wasn't fun. It was dumb. It was genuinely dumb. And that's the problem with infinitely scaling content, is that all of a sudden, like, the power imbalance, people are competitive. And when it comes to being competitive, it needs to feel like you can actually like compete. And so with infinite power scaling, all of a sudden somebody comes in late into the season. Let's say somebody joins the season a month late.
Yeah.
Screw them. Let's say you make an alt.
Oh, dang.
No point to an alt. Don't make an alt, right? Like no alt. So that's the danger to an infinite power scaling system. The other danger too, though, right, when it comes to gating, right? Because now you're saying, what about infinite power? Well, let's say gating without the infinite power, right? Because that would be the next argument. Well, if we just let people play as they want, we just don't gate them, but we also don't have infinite power scaling. Well, then the problem comes that we run into where like people just like get it done real fast and then they just don't know what else to do, and they just sit around.
Exactly.
And you can be like, well, that's my problem. That's my problem to deal with. Blizzard. Listen, they look at the data. They look at the numbers. They know what we like more than we often know. Like I hate to say it that way, but they do. And I would say, right, for a guy like me or a guy like Chicken, when we're a little bit busier, especially in the seasons of life that we're in right now, and we log in and it's like, crap, in order for me to compete in M+, I now need to go run this side content 300 times. Okay, well, I'm gonna go play something else. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. This is dumb.
No.
Right. So like, I need to be able to be like, and that's where Blizzard has a hard time, because they need to be able to make sure that I can log in and feel like I can kind of keep up slightly competitively, while someone else can log in more and maybe have a slight advantage from logging in a lot more, but not such an unreasonable advantage that it just feels impossible. Like, I want to look at it and be like, yeah, they logged in more, they're doing a little bit better, but not like there's no point in me playing type of better, right? And so that's where it gets a little bit hard. And I think MMOs in general are kind of unique in that manner, because most other games, getting better means personal skill, right? So like, Fortnite's always our example. I know our listeners probably could care less about Fortnite, but Fortnite's a great example, because it's a generic shooter, right? And so the more I play Fortnite, right, it's not like I'm getting better gear. It's not like my stats are going up. I'm literally just getting better. I'm just getting better at playing Fortnite. I'm just getting better. I'm shooting better. I'm hiding better. I'm building better, right? Like, I'm just getting better. When it comes to WoW, though, you have that, right? We're going to use Mythic Plus as the example here. You have the just getting better skill-wise. And that is like, I can't understand enough how important it is just to get better at WoW. You know, even for me, I'll run, like, I think we were joking earlier when we went into the keys, because somebody was asking, like, oh, what level should I be or high level should I be to do this key, a +2? And somebody was like, oh yeah, I just ran one with Swag when he was 590 the other day, right? Like, and I was like 590 on the tank and barely living. I was like, I'm cranking my defensives out as if I'm running like a plus 15. But at least I knew the mechanics. I knew the dungeon well enough that we got through. We timed it. We timed the key. It was close. I was struggling to live, but it was doable. I would not suggest somebody who has never run a key before do what I did, right? I knew what to expect. I knew who was hitting when, what they were doing. I've tanked it 100 times. I'm just now tanking on a weaker character. So that skill is deeply important. However, while then also on top of the skill has gear and stats, weapons, armor, right? Trinkets, all that stuff. And those things add direct power, right? They add a level of like, you know, I'm trying to think of a word right now, but I'm not thinking of it, so I'm going to skip it. But they have power, like direct power to you that you can look at and recognize exist. It's numbers. And that's where I think time gating becomes really important. You have to find the right pace where the vast player base can all enjoy it. Yeah. And that's where I think it gets hard. Because if they do it wrong, they lose players. And I think going too far in either direction loses players. So if it's too time gated, if it feels like you don't have enough to do when you log in, you're going to lose players. If it's not time gated enough, then you're going to log in. Like I'm going to log in and be like, dude, I don't want to sit here and freaking work on my covenants. Why am I working on my covenants? This is stupid. No. This is stupid, right? So you have to have some type of middle ground where it's like, okay, there's some reward for this and some not, right? So oftentimes you want the main reward. So for example, right, if you want to like make a new character and spam keys all day long, well, guess what? You're gonna be hitting your crest cap every week. Awesome. I don't hit my crest cap, right? You're gonna be maxing out, especially making alts. You're gonna be maxing out their hero gear real fast. I don't max out my hero gear, even though we joked about earlier. I don't max out that fast, right? Like if you're spamming them, you're probably getting your full hero set in like a week, right? So, there are benefits to it, right? So it's not like playing more has no benefit. It does have a benefit, but you just have to be careful. I personally, though, to answer your question bluntly, I would probably play a different game. I probably wouldn't do M+ if M+ was infinitely scaling power and infinitely scaling keys, because I would watch my friends who play way more than me just outpace me so fast. That I'd be like, dude, listen, man. Brunick was playing. Brunick was one of our mods for the Discord. For those who don't know, he's been around forever. Good friend of mine, Chickens. Brunick has been playing a tank this season. I play tank, which means Brunick and I have not been grouping up. I'm sitting there sad, watching through the window as he goes and runs with other people. And it's sad. I don't like it. It makes me sad every time I log in. I'm like, he's doing content with other people. Well, guess what? That's what it would be like all the time, right? Like in this case, it's just because we both play tanks. But if it was infinitely scaling power, Chicken's gonna log in and he's gonna be like, dude, Swag plays twice as much as me. He's running a plus 95. I only run a plus 40. Right? And he can't come to my plus 40 because with infinitely scaling power, it's just going to be stupid. He's literally just going to one-shot it. I'm going to feel useless. I'm going to feel like I have no point in even being here. Dude, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I didn't even bring it. I didn't even think about that. Like with infinitely scaling power, already, if I run into a plus 2, I'm kind of Giga Chad in the plus 2, right? But even still, mistakes can happen. Things can go wrong. Like, it's whatever, right? Yeah. However, dude, imagine infinitely scaling power and going into like a plus 2 and just like nuking everything, just instant nuking everything. It would just be like running heroic and normal dungeons all over again. It's just like time walking dungeons all over again, right? Yeah. That's not fun, dude. Nobody like, yeah. Sorry. By the way, Rack, I'm not trying to poop on your idea. By the way, I love that you submitted this question. Just the more I think about, the more I'm like, oh man. Sometimes the things that we think are gonna be so good, when you start to like follow the line, you're like, wait a second, it's too sweet. It's a little too sweet, right? Like it might leave some cavities. But anyways, we also have another question from Duke Moneyline, new Discord member, just joined, dropped a question right as we were recording. They said, and it's a little bit of a unique question. So Chicken, I can clarify it, but it says, do people know about how ridiculous Shadowfall is for fast gearing? I assume 630 is fine to start raiding or figure out dungeons of tunes. Are you supposed to be able to get veterans gear or sometimes upgraded multiple levels hourly? Is this known by the masses? Returning player here, so I missed 8 months of the expansion. This blew my mind. So just to clarify a little bit, they're a returning player. They're super excited because they didn't realize how fast Shadowfall gearing is. Plus, now we have horrific visions as well, which was pretty good, which is also going to be helping out. I think that's one thing, and I don't know if it's much of a question, but it's definitely a conversation starter. I think players are aware of it, and I think they're aware of it because WoW has done a really good job the last couple expansions, I think, in creating good catch-up opportunities for players.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I would say that's part of why I love playing alts right now is because you can get them kind of caught up pretty quickly and into content that you enjoy doing rather than sitting there in content you don't enjoy doing, slowly grinding them up.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
Yeah. So, not much to say to that, but Duke, again, thank you so much for sending the question in. And it does give me a chance to say, Blizzard, good job on alt gearing.
Yeah,
I do think it feels good right now, especially this season with how like easy gears to get. Alt gearing feels fantastic. My shaman is like pretty solidly geared now. Maybe I actually have to try to do some real keys. And also, by the way, you put a note in there. You said I assume 630 is fine to start raiding or figuring out dungeons of tunes. 630 is plenty fine to start testing out some M+. That's a great time to start. Definitely even at 630, try some normal raids. Which will be a lot of fun, and then you'll get some gear pretty quickly to hop into heroic raiding. But everybody, that is all the time we have for the podcast today. Chicken and I are going to record some of our post-pod content for the Patreon. We took some hot takes from Discord a week ago, and so we're going to go through some of those and discuss them. But thank you so much for listening, and we will see you again next week.
See ya.